The Cleveland Cavaliers are winners again, this time in Boston by a score of 123-116. One of the more impressive victories you're going to see from this Cleveland Cavaliers bunch, because they did something that they haven't had to do in a long time, and that's come from behind. It's battle, it's fight, it's scratch, it's claw, and it's to do it against one of the best teams in the NBA, the Standard, the reigning NBA champions on their home court. It's been as impressive as it could be tonight for the Cavs.
Yeah, I mean, you go down 25-3 in anyone's, building, it's tough to come back from. And the fact that they just kind of stuck to their game, they made sure that they didn't get overreacted. They just kind of hung in there the whole time and really started to see it in the third quarter. Even in the third quarter, the Cavs, they got it down to 8 or 10, and then the Celtics shot it back up to 17, right? There was 5 minutes left. And that's when you're like, okay, maybe this is going to go the wrong way. But they just kept on kind of just hanging around. And it was down to 10, then it was down to 8. The Celtics, that they're a good shot-making team. They're always going to hit those backbreakers. Derek White's one of my favorites in the league. He is just so calm and composed. Jason Tatum is obviously the elephant in the room we're talking about here. 46 points, 16 boards, 9 assists. And he was just pretty much unstoppable all night. But you got to just give it to the Cavs for hanging in there, and then also coming out more aggressive towards the tail end of that third, and obviously the fourth quarter. Evan Mobley demanding the ball. Donovan Mitchell going to work with that floater. My goodness, did he have that going. Darius Garland with a couple of really nice drive-bys and that awesome mid-ranger in the last minute to really kind of set things straight. And it was just, overall, I said this, and I think they were down by 10. I was like, if you don't see the mental fortitude change in this team from past years, then you're not looking hard enough. Yeah. Because they are a group that just consistently fights. They consistently come at you. They have so many options offensively. Defensively, they obviously have different guys that they can go to. You saw that Ty Jerome was on Tatum there for most of the fourth quarter when other stuff wasn't working. They're just loaded with weapons. And they came out, and even though the Celtics were down KP, they were down Drew Holiday, it didn't matter. They were getting their asses handed to them to start this game. They came back, fought, and this is the end result. They end up winning.
It was an awesome game, and it's one that it felt like a playoff atmosphere, and we'll get into all of that here tonight as we get rolling here. Appreciate everyone jumping in with us so far. Expecting a massive crowd in here tonight. So when you're getting in here, do us a favor, jump into that comment section, drop us a like. We really appreciate it. And we'll be pulling some of this stuff up. Already got some stuff going in the chat here. It was an amazing night to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan. And Spin, want to start here. You kind of touched on it a little bit. Jason Tatum goes for 46. Jaylen Brown goes for 37. That's their two massive games, but they're out there. I shouldn't even say overshown, but they're kind of outmatched by Donovan Mitchell's 41 points. And I think what was cool about this was it was on the Celtics side of things. It was those two guys getting theirs, and it really not much support outside of that. Right, I only had one other player hitting double figures, but for the Cavs, that the story's totally different. Obviously, Donnie goes for 41. Then you get 20 from Darius, 10 from J.A., 17 from Ev, and then 12 from DeAndre Hunter off the bench. And again, what stands out to me is the depth of this Cavs team. RJ was talking about it on the broadcast. Adding DeAndre Hunter is huge. Ty Jerome didn't have his best stuff tonight, but we've seen what this bench group can be when he does have his best stuff. And it's like, okay, you just took down the Celtics on their home court. And a lot of guys, I feel like, are going to look in the mirror tonight and say, I could have played a whole hell of a lot better to put this team in a much better position.
Yeah, because you don't want to dig yourself that hole. It's just really tough to come back from, especially with a team like Boston, who seemingly makes every three-pointer that they shoot. They are so good. Like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they draw defenders and they draw fouls. That is their MO. And then you have the role players around them, the Sam Hausers of the world, Peyton Pritchard off the bench, who's one of the best at it. Al Horford makes threes. You have Derek White, as I mentioned earlier. I thought that Luke Cornett was really good on the glass for them today and was just really tough to keep off of the boards, especially in that first half. But again, to the Cavs' credit, came out in the defensive end in the second half. They had 74, Boston did at half, end up with 116. I'm not doing the math, but that's somewhere around 50 points, right? Like they definitely got the they definitely got the message and ended up trying to keep them off the glass. A lot of it too is that Cleveland was switching a ton, and it's one of those things where when you switch a ton, rebounders aren't going to be in the best position, but at the same time, the Cavs have to make sure they come down with those rebounds when they get stops. That was not happening nearly enough in the first half. Definitely wasn't happening enough in the beginning of the third quarter, where Darius Garland was switched on to, a Tatum or a Brown, and, one of the guards or the smaller players got a rebound other than Jared Allen or Evan Mobley. Like, you have to collectively rebound as a team. It's not only on the bigs to do that, and Jarrett didn't have many boards tonight. So, like, you have to have a plan for that when Jarrett's out on an island on Tatum or Evan's out on an island on Tatum. And let's be frank, like Evan and Jarrett were getting toasted by Tatum. But the thing is, like, Tatum was toasting everybody too. So like, you don't really have too many options in that particular moment when a player of that caliber is going off the way he is. But to their credit, they did a really good job of just hanging in there and sticking with it. And eventually it ended up working and they started to make some shots. I mean, Donovan Mitchell had some really big shot-making moments tonight, which is exactly why he's here, why he's the quote-unquote the superstar of the Cavs. That is why he's here, that he's going to be the one that's aggressive, like I said, with the floater, getting to the line, and also making contested jump shots from deep and from that mid-range area. I just think that is such a tone setter. And then Evan, as I said earlier, was the one demanding the ball in the fourth quarter. He was in the paint, looking for the mismatches, and also just on the offensive glass, was off of misses, had his hands on the leather every time, going back up for the easy shot. And how about that transition three that he took when everyone was running back, no hesitation whatsoever, stepped into it, and that really changed the complexion of the game, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. I we'll get to fourth quarter Ev, the sleek freak. We'll come up with a nice name for him here. I was texting you, calling him fourth quarter Ev, but let's put him to the side just for a moment. I want to go one step back here, Spin, and talk about Donovan Mitchell, because yes, goes for 41 points. You're going to remember a lot of the clutch shots there at the end. He obviously hit a lot of free throws, but one place I think is like really stood out to me, Spin, it was Cavs were down 25-2. And that was a time where you're like, all right, this is going to go one of two ways. Either I'm going to put on, The Office and watch it the rest of the night and then get on and talk with you afterwards, or the Cavs are going to fight back and they're going to stick in this thing. And it went the other way. It went with the latter, because Donovan Mitchell wouldn't let it go. Like, he would not let the game get away from him. And that's what I think superstars do, man. Like, they put up his stats on the year, averaging just 24 points on the season. And like, we've said it all along, like, you and I have watched every single game, and we know we see what he's doing. But I think it was really good to see tonight that he still has that gear when he's like, okay, the guys are kind of looking around, waiting for somebody to go. He throws it into fifth gear and he goes, hang on, guys, I got us for right now, and kind of carried that team along just to keep them in the game early.
And that's what you have to do. And that's your responsibility when you're the leader of the team. The vocal leader of the team, probably one, but two, just kind of that calming presence, as we always hear about. Like, he was aggressive, but I'm sure that when he was addressing his teammates, he's like, guys, let's chill. Let's not get sped up. Let's stay and stick to our game. I'm sure that he was being very, like that in the huddles and stuff like that. And that's what makes Donovan so special, in addition to the talents that he has. Like, he had some really, really tough finishes, like I said today. Tough shots, tough finishes, going shot for shot with the Celtics. I think in that fourth quarter was one of the most playoff-like atmospheres that we've seen this season. And look, you mentioned the 22-point gap there to start the game. It had a lot of feelings like that Thunder game in OKC. And like you said, it can go one of two ways. The Cavs didn't lay down this time. It wasn't like, oh, it's not our night, let's pack it in and we've got a game against Portland on Sunday. No, we have to show that we are on the same level of the Celtics team. We have to show that we can not only match this level, but we can also exceed this level. And they did so. And I think that is really important for them to see. And I think knowing that they have that victory now on a tough stage, on a tough home floor for the Celtics. Like, that is a big confidence booster for them. And this game wasn't going to be the end all be all with the result either.
No.
But I think the mentality, and then knowing that you can beat them, though, that's the big part of this.
And Spin, there's a certain doubt that creeps into your mind because you go 49, you get to 48-11. Let's say that this doesn't go the Cavs' way, but let's say it doesn't go the Cavs' way in that nasty blowout type fashion where it's kind of felt like it was going to be. Then you're like, all of this is for naught. Like, all right, we're
Correct.
still I was thinking, midway through, I'm like, all right, my intro tonight's going to be they big broed us. Like, all right, guys, they 2016 Cavs us. Remember when we like the Cavs would just like take the month of January off, and you're like, what the heck's going on? And then they turn it on immediately, and you're like, okay, it's still the Celtics. But I think it was really important for the Cavs just to show some fight. And once they got into it, like you're like you feel good about where they're at, because I'm looking at the play-by-play right now, and with 7 minutes and 11 seconds to go in the first quarter, that means that there was only 4 minutes and 49 seconds of basketball played. It was 25-3. After that, the Cavs won the rest of the game by 29 points. So you win the majority of the entire basketball game against a really good Celtics team by 29 points. Now, mind you, Spin, they didn't miss a shot. They were, 6 of 7 from the field, or 7 of 8 from the field to start the game. 4 of those were 3-pointers. Like, they just came out of the gates on fire. And oftentimes that happens, but I mean, just really, really, really impressive by the Cavs to stick in there and fight. And one of the big guys that did that, and I think showed a lot of growth just in general, was Evan Mobley tonight, because it was not his night. Even Richard Jefferson was saying it on the ESPN broadcast. He's like, midway through the fourth quarter, he's like, if you want to be an all-star on this team, you can't have 11 points. And it was like right at that point when he was like, give me the ball. He like hit a 3, and then he like dunked on somebody, and you're like, oh, he's turning it on right now. And Spin, I thought it was really impressive to see Evan go get his when the moment was the brightest.
Yeah, and that's part of the player development too, like the stage you're on. And obviously the last game they played against the Celtics, he didn't really show up. He hasn't really had a great game against the Celtics since the playoffs last year, like just to keep it a buck. Like, for him to come out and do what he did in the fourth quarter, demand the ball, grab the boards, make sure that he was on his P's and Q's defensively, I thought that was also big. I agree with you in that wholeheartedly. There are other parts of this too, like that I think are interesting when you look at like strategically. There are a lot of people asking me, why are they switching the way they are, and like Tatum's destroying everybody, and Jaylen Brown's taking advantage of smaller players and stuff like that. This is Kenny's strategy, and he clearly feels like it works. I think that at 49-10 now, like, you can trust that. It's really hard to defend the Celtics. Like, I'll also say that. Like, the Celtics are a completely different animal than the rest of the league, because Tatum will draw 2 every time, and Brown will draw 2 every time, and then you got the ball in rotation. It's swinging across the perimeter, and all of a sudden there's Peyton Pritchard, burying your grave. Like, that is really hard to stop when you have the other guys that are able to make shots the way that they have. And that's why they won a championship last year. So there is no perfect defensive strategy against them. I do think that they should stay truer a little bit more. Like, I think that switching works, but I also think that fighting over a screen and making sure that you're staying attached to your man is really important if they're going to hunt one guy the whole time. And obviously that was Darius Garland. He was taking shots. He was staying in front, but they were still making them over the top, getting taken to the rack and stuff like that. But now that you have the wings that you have, I think that helps a little bit. Like, Dean Wade came up with a couple of really big stops in the fourth quarter. I think that was big. He had a couple of big moments for them there. They have enough. They have enough. Like I think that this is a game where you see that. Again, you go back to Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. I'm interested to see what that looks like. Hopefully we see it in May. That'd be great. But I feel like when you look at this and you look at just the overall resume of how they played on national TV from Friday to Friday to do what they did, I think that this is a massive win. They won 4 games straight, and 3 out of the 4, half of those, I would say, the Magic game and the Knicks game were complete like domination. And then the other ones were down to the wire games that were really fun, really competitive, and you came out on top. So I don't think you can ask for much more if you're a Cavs fan.
and against the number 2 seeds in both conferences, right? Like against the Grizzlies and the Celtics there. I think it's incredibly impressive. Spin a couple points here that jump into my mind. I want to talk DeAndre Hunter real quick. 12 points on the night, 3 of 3 from 3, 4 of 6 from the field, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. But I think the one stat I left out there, 1 block. And it was the block on Jason Tatum there at the end of the game when Tatum was shooting the 3. And like, that's one where it's like, okay, that's why you go get that guy. That's why you go make that trade. Yeah, we miss George Niang. Yes, we miss Karis LeVert. But neither one of those guys is making that play in the biggest moment. Yes, Tatum had 46 points. But in crunch time, in the biggest moment of the game, DeAndre Hunter gets a fingertip on that ball and makes a huge play for the Cavs.
7'2" wingspan, man. That's all the difference there. And you have that length. He wasn't on Tatum like the first half at all. The second half drew him a little bit more, but Tatum was hunting those mismatches every single time. You saw they bring up a guard most of the time to try and get a switch, and then Tatum would attack. I think that the Cavs did a better job in the second half, even though Tatum didn't care who was defending him. Like I said, he was on he had Jared Allen and Evan Mobley on an island for a lot of the game, and they had trouble with him. But to be honest, everyone's having trouble with Tatum right now, the way he's playing. But you bring up the point about DeAndre Hunter getting that block on Tatum. That moment doesn't happen without Donovan Mitchell closing out on Peyton Pritchard in that moment before, which I think goes completely overlooked sometimes. A lot of superstar players don't make that kind of effort at that play. And I wouldn't say that they would let him just shoot the ball, but he was very disciplined in that closeout to where he didn't go flying by to try to block it. He just made sure that Pritchard didn't get a clean look off. Pritchard ends up, passing it to to Tatum, who's trailing, and then Hunter is able to get that contest in that block, which makes all the difference. Those plays are big. I think that Sam Merrill did a really good job as well of covering for his man. I can't remember what play it was, but I think Ty Jerome got broken down, fell down,
you're right.
And then Merrill came over and contested a jumper, and then the Cavs got a rebound in a game. I think it was like a 10, 12-point game at that point. Those are little plays. Max Strus, I know he didn't have a great night tonight, and he didn't take too many shots. But what do I tell you about this guy? He is a timely playmaker. He is a timely guy when it comes to saving a ball from going out of bounds or making sure that the next guy's getting the ball up in transition. This is where I hate when people try to separate individual from team. Team efforts, everyone has their own kind of specialties and what they bring to the table. Isaac Okoro, I thought, had an awesome strip. I know he bricked the three-pointer that was at the top of the key, and then he didn't see the rest of the floor for most of the rest of the game. But he had a very key strip on Jaylen Brown right before that happened. So you have to pay attention to the intricacies of the game to understand that this is not just about shot making. This is not just about what the stats say. It is the moments within the game where you make a winning impact, and I think that everyone across the board has.
Yeah, it was impressive as hell. It just was from top to bottom, left to right. It was an unbelievable finish. And we have an awesome crowd with us tonight.
Yeah, let's get some comments in here, man. I appreciate you guys for coming in.
Keep flooding that thing. We're going. We're not stopping here. Spin, this isn't a plus minus podcast, okay? But I sometimes go and look at it, and I'm going to make a larger point to this. But we're going to talk about bench to bench, okay? Cavs bench, Dean Wade plus 12, DeAndre Hunter plus 21, Isaac Okoro plus 3, Ty Jerome plus 34, Sam Merrill plus 22. Now we're going to flip it to the Celtics side of things. Peterson, 0 plus minus. Craig, minus 8. Luke Cornett, minus 26. Peyton Pritchard, minus 36. The bigger point to that is Cavs bench outscored the Celtics bench 33-6. Again, we talked depth already, but man, oh man. I think, you look across the board, man-to-man outside of DeAndre Hunter, I think you're going to look Dean Wade, Isaac Okoro, Ty Jerome, and Sam Merrill. They're all going to be like, I could have played better, and they still dominated their minutes tonight. And I think that, obviously, that really paved the way for that comeback to be complete.
It was huge, and that's coming off of a game where they outscored the Magic's bench 61-13. Yeah. And if you probably just go down the line, they are just so deep. You're able to play bench guys in the final minutes. Like you saw that DeAndre Hunter close. The closing lineup was Garland, Mitchell, Strus, Hunter, Mobley. Like Jared Allen wasn't even out there to close the game. But that's what kind of luxury you have. And even like you look at, I know you said that like Ty didn't have his best game, and that is true, but the initial comeback started when Ty Jerome started making shots in the first quarter. And I know that like that, trimming it down to 15, 17, whatever it was, but those points still count at the end of the day. And to be able to still kind of fight through the shot being short, the floaters being short, started to find his game there. And he just provides this kind of spark for them. I know that him and Hunter are the ones that come off the bench as that first group. He is so imperative to what they do. And you could say that about a lot of these guys. Just timely. Again, it's just timely stuff. It's not specialty, but it's necessary. I don't know how else to describe it, but they are really deep. They are really not only just deep, they are capably deep. Like these are players that go out there and can lead you in scoring any night. They can.
They're not just eating minutes out there. Like they're coming out there and making an impact. Spin, I'm bringing one up here that I tried to prep you with it. I didn't get the text off, but I want to bring this comment up. Umano_2. Appreciate. First of all, thanks for the comment. Thanks for the drop in here. I think this is a good question. It's a good conversation. People are talking about it. Why is DeAndre Hunter not starting? Why is he coming off the bench? Who are you? Strus is in the starting lineup. Should he be? Should he not? The comment here, it's a good win, man, but we got to stop chasing when we play against them. Need to start Wade or Hunter from the start. Spin, the floor is yours. What are your thoughts on that, or who should be in the starting lineup?
I don't necessarily disagree against a Celtics team or against a certain matchup. Kenny has consistently kind of brought up the fact that Max Strus in this starting lineup, in that starting five, has like a great net rating, and the results have been the results. In this particular matchup, I don't hate the idea of starting a Wade or a Hunter just because of the wing supply that the Celtics do have. Sam Hauser's a little bit taller. You had Strus defending Brown and Tatum. I think that he can do the job, but like you have more capable defenders to do that job. And if you get yourself in a 25-3 hole on the road in Boston in the playoffs, chances are that comeback is not going to happen again.
Yeah.
So I will level with you on that one. Like, absolutely, I'll hear that out. I think that that's a really good question, and maybe something that we bring up to Kenny Atkinson's when he's back at home. But he's been pretty standard on starting Strus. We will see where that goes, though. But great question.
Yeah, and another one here, Spin. I like this one as well. We're going to read it here from Tasman Sims. Taz, what's up, man? Thanks for dropping this comment in. But explain to me why this Cavs team would shorten their rotation for the playoffs without using "that's just the way it's always been done." It's a good question there. Yeah. And well, Spin, floor is yours.
Yeah, no, another really good question. I think that they're still going to be at least 9 deep, which is a lot. Some teams basically play 7 with one guy, playing 5-6 minutes in the first quarter or something like that. If the way that you're playing is working, I agree. I wouldn't do too much to fix it, but they have an embarrassment of riches to where it's hard. It's really hard to get all of those guys on the floor at the same time in one game, especially if one unit is playing a lot better than another unit. It's just really difficult. Like, you're going to come down to Sam Merrill and Isaac Okoro. The good thing is you have options. Like, you saw that tonight too. Like, if one thing wasn't working, like if, like Kenny threw Isaac in there a couple different times, and, like Sam's playing with the second unit, but like, I'm sure that he's going to try to split their time, and you're still trying to search for that top group, that top, 9-10 guys. I think it's pretty set, but other guys are obviously having the opportunities to do it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes in the playoffs when you get deeper into it. Mm-hmm. But chances are it's probably going to be a minute uptick. It's not just a thing that just how it's done. I think you want your best players out there, and it's not like related to contracts or anything like that or selfishness. I think it's more or less like you saw what Donovan Mitchell was just capable of there in 35 minutes. That was one of his higher minute ticks of the year. He just dropped 41. You want that out on the floor.
Yes, Spence. I mean, that's exactly what I was just going to bring up here. We talked about this, I don't know, a week and a half ago when they played the Knicks. I don't even remember what day that was, but
Friday.
we looked at the Knicks roster the night before. They all played 38 plus minutes. This is arguably the biggest game of the Cavs like regular season to this point. Like, hey, you want to go out there and prove it? Your high minutes man was Donovan Mitchell at 35. You had 35 from him, 32 from Darius. You had 29 from Evan, 24 from Jared, 22 from Strus, 29 from DeAndre off the bench, and 21 from Ty. Like I think that's important because, all right, let's pretend this is a 7-game series not in April, not in May, or in late May. You're already in the third round of the playoffs. Like, dudes are going to be beat up, and there are times when you got to have your stars on the floor to win those big playoff games, but when you can spread that out, man, that's huge. That is massive. And it goes to that point you made. It's an embarrassment of riches on this Cavs roster.
And I think, too, when it comes to the deep going, like super deep in the playoffs, you don't have a ton of leash in the postseason.
Yeah,
like,
true.
If you're not making your shots and you're in a pivotal situation, or if you give up, a defensive breakdown, you're not communicating, you're going to get yanked real quick because there is not time to learn through mistakes in the postseason and stuff like that. So you got to be on your P's and Q's. You got to be sharp right away when you do get your number called in the postseason. Let's bring on some more questions, man. I'm loving this.
You like the questions. All right.
I do. I like this.
Spin likes the questions, so keep jumping them in there. There's a lot to get to in this game. So as we're watching here, again, an awesome crowd tonight. I loved everyone jumping in here and hanging out with us after the Cavs' massive 123 to 116 victory against the Boston Celtics in Boston. A huge win for them. Now, Spin, I want to kind of turn the direction of the conversation to the Celtics because, obviously you're not gonna, if you're them, right? Let's say you're Joe Mazzulla, you're going home, you're gonna cut on the town tonight and probably be pretty pissed. But you come off a really tough loss against the Detroit Pistons. So Cavs fans, if you're in here and maybe you were doing something last night or the night before, the Detroit Pistons thumped these Boston Celtics, got after them pretty good. Spin, you watched the entire thing, but they lose to the Pistons, then they lose to the Cavs tonight on their home court, right? Down Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. What do you think? Like, obviously, the sky's not falling. Again, this is the best team potentially in the NBA, but you got to kind of be scratching your head, like, okay, the sand's running out of the hourglass. We're running out of time here in the season, and there's some really good teams in the East, and maybe historically, at least in the recent history, there hasn't been that.
And if you're the Celtics now, this was a big game because of that gap between the 1 and the 2 seed. That was another thing. But for them, I think you have to just get healthy. Drew Holiday has something called a mallet hand. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to try and speculate what that is. Hopefully he's okay because I love Drew's game. He's one of the best defenders in the league. Great setup guy. Improved shooter. Kristaps Porzingis, as we've seen, has given the Cavs headaches a ton because of the way he stretches the defense out. So, I wouldn't say, Boston has anything to worry about. I would say this, their approach to the regular season has not been nearly like the Cavs' approach to the regular season. But that's also because Boston's proved it. They've gotten to the mountaintop. They won. So it's natural not to have a letdown, but to kind of be kind of on coast mode a little bit.
Yeah.
The Cavs have something to prove. They are trying to establish habits. They're trying to bring those into the postseason, which is exactly why they've played the same way all year long. Not once have they played down to competition. Not once have they played up, to competition or anything like that. They've just been right there at equilibrium, playing the same way every time, no matter what kind of runs happen in games, because basketball is a game of runs. I don't think Boston has had the same mentality as that. And I think that also could catch up to them in this game.
Yeah.
And they've been kind of prone to give up leads. If you look at and read what's coming out of Boston, when you read the reports and stuff like that and see the outcome of games and how many close games, they've end up being in because they kind of take their foot off the gas. The Cavs are a team that is still learning to play with a lead, but they keep their foot on the gas for the most part. And if they're down, they're going to claw back. And they haven't been down very much.
No.
So there is a difference between that. But I think Boston's going to know what the assignment is once April and May roll around. And the Cavs do too, but one has, the leg up over the other in that particular department.
Yeah, you made a ton of great points there. One that I just want to add on just for a moment is that you talk about the regular season after winning a title. We experienced this. Like if you're in this show tonight watching, like this is the same thing the LeBron Cavs used to do. Like you can't be on that
Chill
have your
mode.
pedal to the metal for 10 straight months for 2 straight years. No, you just can't do it. And there certainly be lulls in the season. We're not naive on this show to think that the Celtics aren't going to be a factor, but I do think that maybe their eyes open a little bit. Maybe that their eyelashes, their eyebrows pop up just a touch when they look at what their 2-game stretch here against the Pistons and the Cavs. All right, Spin. We got boots on the ground in Boston. Brendan was behind enemy lines tonight to go from the bedlam after 25-3 to leaving before the final buzzer. This was a roller coaster for Boston fans. Brendan, hope you're still with us right now because I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to jump back in the comments. First of all, 2 questions. How horrible are those Boston Celtics custom jerseys, their alternates? And 2, how this is a personal thing. Their PA announcer, I tweeted it. I shouldn't have, but their PA announcer is like nails on a chalkboard to me when he does the JT43 thing. And
Great impression, man. Great impression.
It really grinds my gears.
Does he jump it back in the comments?
We got him. Yes, sir. Brennan, fall back in there. Please tell me I'm right. Or maybe I'm 100% wrong.
I love that. This is like Dora the Explorer now. We're just like looking at the screen, like waiting for the answer.
Spot on impression.
Well done, Megs. Well done. But hey, that had to be a hell of a game to be at, man.
Dude,
like that is a postseason environment. In the fourth quarter, the Cavs go up by like 6 or something like that. Boston comes roaring back, and then the shot for shot sequences back and forth. I loved it between Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell. Mm-hmm. But that mid ranger by DG to seal it was filthy. We haven't talked Spin. We haven't talked DG tonight, and it was a game for Darius that we've seen. It felt like we've seen it a million times. Where all right, big stage now for the kid, and we've seen him like clear these hurdles, and like you can see him getting better and better and better. But every time when he comes against Boston, it always seems to be like, okay, he's guarding Derek White, and then Derek White goes and sets this fake screen, and then he switched on to Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, and they just back him down and then just go over him because they're bigger than him. But that happened a little bit tonight, certainly, but it was really cool to see DG at the end of the game on the offensive side of the floor hit a huge 3 to shoot him out of the zone and then get into the paint a couple times and make some nice contested finishes, which we're getting so used to seeing from him this season. Yeah, he's just kind of got the wiggle, man. Like he just is able to break you down like nobody else. And it's just the hesitation moves that he has. I know everyone hates this word, but he's shifty is what it is. Like he's got his hand on top of the ball. They are not travels. You can see like he does not carry the ball. Like he is able to kind of just freeze you by just kind of stopping in time and then just making one move to the left, right, or do both and get by you. Something that he's had trouble with in the postseason and even playing against Boston is he always wants to switch Horford onto him so he can take Horford. But Horford really has a good time defending Darius because he stays in front and he rejects him, stuff like that. Darius this time I think was not looking to isolate Horford quite as much. I think he did a really good job of staying composed, did his thing, and he took a ton of shots tonight too. That's the other thing. Taking 23 shots shows a lot of confidence, and burying the triple from 30 plus feet. He had the off high glass kind of scoop shots, playing off of 2. And then, like you said, defensively, like he stays there. He's taking bodily contact, and he's also searching out contact on the other end too. Like there was a pivotal moment, and this didn't go the Cavs' way, but he took it straight into the teeth of Boston. And I think there's like five minutes left or something like that. And there were like 3 defenders there, and he went in and fell to the ground. Nothing was called. And then, Boston was going the other way. Cavs actually played some solid transition defense on that possession, but DG, I think, is just like Evan. Like, I think they just needs to see that happen and that possibility happen. And for that shot to go down, I think does a lot for his confidence. So DG and Evan having those big fourth quarter moments, huge for them. I also
thought too that there was a play where Jaylen Brown like went up in the lane and it looked like DG did his patented, like, shoots his head back. I'm like, oh my God, he just got elbowed again in the face.
Yeah, you're just used to it. You're just used to it at this point.
Just used to it. All right, here we go. Here's another question for you. Our guy Brennan, new friend of the show, friend of the program. Brennan asked thoughts on no Mobley or Jay in the lineup near the end. Wait at the 5 with Hunter, Okoro, DG, and Donnie. You talked about it a little bit ago, but jump back into it for a second.
Wasn't quite a fan. I think the very first possession they gave up a layup, and then Kenny immediately called timeout. Just in that situation, because Mobley was starting to get hot. I didn't like necessarily pulling him there. JA on the bench, we've seen that before. We've seen JA not close out games. We've seen Evan not close out games and JA be on the floor. It's just all dependent on matchups. But that particular lineup, I'm a fan of, just not in that scenario at that point. I know that Dean's a killer in that situation, but we know that DeAndre Hunter's not the greatest rebounder, and you need to come down with boards. So him playing up a position, I don't know if I'm necessarily a fan of that. But to be frank, like, they closed with Hunter at the 4 because they had Strus at the 3, and then the regular starting lineup other than that. But I think in that situation, and immediately the way that the Cavs just kind of picked apart, or the Celtics just kind of picked apart that first out of the timeout play. Kenny saw that, and I think he immediately switched out Okoro for Mitchell after that. So, not in that scenario. Maybe throughout the game, I like mixing that in, going a little bit smaller and seeing if you can kind of switch it up. But, Kenny experimenting more.
Yeah, no, and he loved the experiments. Guys, it's an unbelievable crowd here tonight. Over 3,000 for the first time live.
Knew it would be a big turnout on this kind of game, man. I love it. Thank you guys so much.
This is awesome. We absolutely
keep the questions coming. I don't want to stop.
Yeah, keep them coming in. Keep them coming in. Spin. I want to kind of look at the Eastern Conference and the league kind of as a whole. You touched on it just a little bit ago, because this was, frankly, it's not the biggest deal, but it was a big game for Boston to try to stay within shouting distance of Cleveland. Cavs obviously get the win, move to 49-10, are on the cusp of being the first team to 50 wins, still with 22 to go, but they moved a 7.5 game lead over the Boston Celtics, 10 games over the New York Knicks, and you got to be feeling pretty good if you're a Cavs fan that you're going to get the 1 seed here unless something catastrophic happens, and the run to the NBA Finals is going to go through Cleveland. Yeah,
and the Cavs are not the type of team to rest on their laurels either. As I said, they've played the same way all year, never down to the competition, and it's not like they are more apt to playing up to competition because quite frankly, they're the best, record team in the NBA right now. So there's no way they can play down. They haven't played down in competition all year is basically what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So you're not going to see that on Sunday. There's not going to be some hangover after this game. I would be very surprised if that was the case. I will say 3:30 game on Sunday is a little bit quick of a turnaround with no practice in between, but they should be able to handle business on Sunday, get to 50 wins. And that is just kind of been their MO, though. And now, you win this head-to-head matchup. You've got a brutal March, to be quite honest, schedule-wise, just as far as your long West Coast road trip. We know that the MAC tournament's in town. We know that the NCAA men's tournament is in town 2 straight weekends, so that's going to be tough. Sledding just kind of being on the road for a while and not too many home games in the month of March. So, keep your eye on that part. But I think that you're starting to realize and understand how much belief that they have, and also, as we've said before, just how deep and how capably deep they are.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The Cavs now are holding the 3 longest win streaks in the NBA this season. A 15-gamer to start the season, a 12-gamer somewhere in the middle, and now a 9-gamer after this comeback win against the Boston Celtics. And Spin, I just was doing the math here in the month of March. 10-1, or excuse me, in the month of February, 10-1, 10-1 record in the month of February. 11
after
games.
That January, think about that January. There were questions, losing 5 out of 8. Like the wing question that we obviously got answered with the trade deadline and all that good stuff. Like there were some people that were like, something's going on here, and they fought right through it. They never wavered in their belief. They never wavered in what they have building here and what they have that's shown here. So that's the ultimate mark of a champion, is being able to have it up here. Up here is half the battle, man. And then you see the skill set and the shooting that they have now and have had this whole season. It's a tough team, man. I'm telling you, they are different. They are different from past years.
They are different. A bunch of comments in here talking about how this team's primed for the NBA Finals.
Give everybody the light. Give everybody the light. Go ahead, even if they're not questions. Go ahead and just pop them on there. Hey, they're hanging with us. So.
Hey, get to talking on this one here, because this, I think, is an interesting one. Ty Jerome on Tatum might be the move from the Cavaliers. I don't know if that's a pun or if you just don't know how to spell, but Ty Jerome on Tatum might be the move.
Don't insult our guests.
That's my guy. Come on. Hey, he didn't take it personal. That's our guy.
No, it could be the move. It could also be a case where Tatum was not, kind of just stopped making shots. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure. We probably have to see that bigger sample size. But they tried something different, and it worked a couple times. Just Tatum trying to shoot over the top of a 6'5" guy is different than him trying to shoot over the top of a 6'3" guy.
Yeah.
I think Jerome did a good job of bodying up. Like I said, did a good job on Jaylen Brown too, except the one time that he got, put down. But like I said, Sam Merrill was over there to cover. But Ty, I think it's interesting because someone was in my mentions asking, like, why doesn't Ty Jerome, play more? Like, why doesn't he have more minutes? And I'm like, well, who are you taking off the floor?
Yeah,
like who you take off the floor in that situation? You can't take DG and Don off the floor. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could play him at the 3 with Evan and JA. Maybe maybe DeAndre Hunter. Maybe it's like Garland, Mitchell, Jerome, Hunter, Mobley. Like, you could try that. But then, like, you're thinking to yourself, like, do we have balance? We want to have balance too. So make sure that that's there. And it's all about just kind of a feel for the game, I think. But I mean, I'm sure that Kenny will try something like that eventually.
Hey, he ain't afraid to do some experimenting. Okay, one I want to get to here. You take away the first 4 minutes, and the Cavs give up. Let's do some quick math. 25 minus 116 is 90 something.
Oh no,
90 something. I'm not
99
positive. Maybe 90 something. 26, maybe 99. So you give up 99 points as a defense against one of the best offenses in the NBA. And what's the number? Are you doing the math? Are you doing it on your calculator?
Nope. I'm just telling if people got questions.
Dry. Come on. That is not a good co-host right there. But Spin, what are your thoughts? Cavs defense tonight. Obviously, you give up 116, but that start that the Celtics had was pretty on fire.
Can I just say, so the first half, they were getting toasted by Tatum, and it was the drawing defenders, and it was drawing fouls. That was the big thing that was really getting the Cavs out of sync, out of order. Sometimes they're a little too apt to switching, but that's Kenny's philosophy. So I'm just going to sit here. I know Kenny knows better than pretty much all of us, I would assume. I would like to see them stay a little bit more true, as I was saying earlier. If you get hung up on a screen, fight through it a little bit more instead of just giving up the switch onto DG or onto like a smaller guard like a Sam Merrill. Maybe try a little bit harder to get over. But it's understandable. Like, these are some burly guys, and you don't want to expend too much energy. But at the same time, if Tatum's just toasting everyone, it's kind of a moot point. Get the rebound if you get a rare miss. That's the big thing for me. That's what was concerning for me in the first half, is that no one was getting rebounds. JA had 0 at half.
Crazy.
Which you can't. Sorry.
No, you and I got a group text saying, "Is Jared okay?"
Yeah, we did. And here's the thing, it's easy to blame the 5-man for the rebounds, like when he's out of position, and you got to understand that if you're not by the rim to get those rebounds, it's one thing. But there were times where Jaylen Brown was getting rebounds over, Jarrett Allen on offensive boards, which are just not, it's just not acceptable. And I think Jarrett knows that, and he's got to be better in that situation. But I think, to his credit, kind of stuck with it in the second half, did a good job of doing his setting screens and just being able to kind of seal for guys and all that stuff. I think the rebounding is the big piece here to look out for. I don't know if the defense is something to be quote unquote concerned with. It's tough to stop Jason Tatum.
He's gonna get his top 5 player in the league. Yeah,
he is. Yeah. And sometimes you can kind of bait him into taking bad shots too. If you want to take this shot,
guess what? Good players make them, right?
I got an interesting quote, or not quote, comment earlier on Twitter. Like, maybe the Cavs strategy should just be to let them take pull-up threes and not the generated threes. And I thought that was an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Being in a 22-point hole out of the gate, probably not a good time to try that. But if they're going to take threes anyway, the type of threes they're taking is interesting to think about, especially if they're early shot clock. As I said earlier, 3-pointers is going to lead to long rebounds if it's a miss, and then you got an advantage on the other end. That happened a lot to the Cavs in the first half. Like, the first quarter, the reason they got down was because they were bricking a bunch of threes. And the Celtics had advantages, like 4-on-3s and, 3-on-2s going the other way. And that's just going to happen with basketball when you shoot threes and you miss them. So you got to kind of be a little bit better about your shot selection in those instances. Yeah. But again, they figured it out. So these are all concerns from the first quarter and the first half, and they rectified them. So
and that's good coaching. We're going to go a quick rapid fire here from Brennan here. All right. So I want you to rank this nickname here, because you're the nickname guy. I want you to rank this scale of 1 to 10. The drippiest of Deans, Dean Wade, the famed Celtics killer. I'm going to bring that up. But drippiest of Deans, what do you feel on that? Where's your temperature on that one?
I'm low on that one.
Low on that one.
Just low on that one. The only Cav that I ever know associated with the word drip is Jordan Clarkson.
Okay. All right. Last in-game tidbit. Not sure if it was on the broadcast. This was not on the broadcast. So really cool tidbit here from Brennan. Tatum got that offensive foul on DG, and I saw Kenny do the 2-spall motion on the sidelines. Amazing stuff from Kenny.
Oh, wow.
Not on the broadcast. Obviously, that's Spence's first time seeing it. If we can get footage of that, tag the Cavs social media team, because if that's out there, that's special stuff. Kenny is authentic as hell, man. That's one of the coolest things about him. You get to interact with him far more than I do, but that's one of my favorite things about him is he's just an authentic type dude, and in an environment that's competitive like tonight, that stuff comes up.
And he'll let you know about calls he doesn't like, too, because we all know the famed, look, Jason Tatum went out there and played a hell of a game tonight. He dropped 46. This was not all on it. But in certain possessions, you see the off arm, you see the extension with the right, and making, the left and making separation. They did a good job playing through that tonight. I'll just say that. He does create separation using the off arm quite a bit. And the Cavs did not play into the game of we didn't get any calls. They just kept going. Donovan Mitchell was consistently barking at the refs tonight for when he drove and was getting hacked at and wasn't getting calls. That, I think, and he led the game in free throw attempts, so he clearly felt some type of way.
Yeah.
So they played through that, and that's also a sign of the maturity of this team. So,
all right, we're gonna pull up a couple here to get us out on this. But I had my finger on it; it is now gone. We are finals ready. Oh, man, I had a good one. Oh, here we go. This game proved enough to me to know that this team is ready for the NBA Finals. They're ready for whatever adversity they face along the way. That was the biggest thing to me, Spin. You face some adversity tonight. It's just not that they couldn't do it, but they just haven't had to. There's been so many of these games where they get up massive and they just don't have to fight because that's not what the game calls for. But in 2 games in the last 4, they've had to fight. They've had to respond to some adversity. They proved they can do that.
They wanted to compete, and they knew they had to compete because they're on national television. They're in front of the world, and you're getting punked by the Celtics in the first 4 minutes of the game. You have to compete. You have to show a backbone, and that's what the Cavs did. And they, like you said, they have not had to do it too much this season, but this was different. You're on the road. You're against a team that people are saying you can or cannot knock off in the postseason. So this felt like a playoff game. As I said, going shot for shot at the end, the atmosphere, it was rocking in there, I'm sure. And the Cavs just quieted them down as the game went along.
Dude, I'm telling you what, my favorite sound in all the world is it was when Evan hit the 3 ball with we were still down. I think we were down 4. I think it cut it to 1 maybe. And Evan pulls up, hits a 3 with a kind of a lazy hand in his face, and it just shut up the Boston crowd. And I was like, oh, it was like music to my ears, man. I was like, that's the most gorgeous sound that I know of is when TD Garden gets rocking, and whether it be LeBron, whether it be Kyrie, whether it be Donovan Mitchell, whether it be Evan Mobley, just a silencer triple, man. makes my heart go.
That Evan 3 in transition and DG's mid-ranger when they were up by 5, I think were the most death-knelling shots of the quarter.
I love it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even though Donovan had like a dozen, but or like whatever, however many big shots he had.
Yeah.
But I think that those were the biggest because they came from DG and Ev, the guys that constantly were getting picked on and have always gotten the brunt of the, you know, the kind of bad feelings from people, and they're the ones that kind of grew up a little bit in this one too.
It was awesome. It was an awesome night for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Huge winners against the Boston Celtics in a game they had to come back from 123 to 116. Up next for the Cavs. You get tomorrow off, but you're back in action. We talked about it just a little bit ago, but you're back at Rocket Arena for a 3:30 tip on Sunday afternoon against the Portland Trailblazers. Portland comes in 27-33. This is a game you got to have. You got to have this game. No hangover there. And then you head to Chicago to take on the Bulls, and then come back home for a game against the Miami Heat, and then you finish up this little 4-game stretch. Or excuse me, let's go 5 games because the one on the end's a good one. You play the Hornets, and then you go to Milwaukee to take on Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. That's going to be a good test. You know, Giannis is one of those guys where, again, we've talked about it a couple of times. He's still Giannis. He's still the Finals MVP from a few years ago, and that'll be a fun test to end this next 5-game stretch for the Cleveland Cavs.
I agree with this comment down here by your guy Brendan too. Like, again, I don't think that the Cavs are going to have any sort of hangover in this game, but the Blazers, they have been playing better basketball, so you can't come into this one thinking that it's a layup. And I don't think that the Cavs will. I don't think they're going to have that opportunity. But you got to give a ton of credit to the Blazers the way that they've hung in there this season, because they were down in the dumps at the beginning of the year. And just the development of Scoot Henderson coming off the bench, love Toumani Camara. That's one of my irrational kind of love player guys. I have one for each team, and Toumani Camara is the one on this one. Shaedon Sharp had the dunk of the year the other night, just detonating on a dude. Like it
reminded me when I saw that spin. It just clicked in it reminded me of my old high school tape, cocking it back and hanging on the rim.
Hey, let them know, Megs. Let them know. And then finally on the Blazers, Anthony Simons. That's a guy that can go out and drop 40 any night. So yeah they got to be on their A game in that one, and I think that they will be.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Spin will be. I shouldn't say that. You're going to be on the ground, boots on the ground on Sunday.
Oh, you can always assume
that. Always Spin, boots on the ground. We got a lot of new faces in here tonight, Spin. And guys, thank you so much for jumping in with us. This is a fun show. Obviously, we went a little bit longer. It's Friday night. Circumstances called for it. Huge win for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we appreciate you all jumping in and hanging out with us. If you're new to the program, you're looking at right here one of the hardest working men in Cleveland, in Cleveland media here. He busts his ass to give you guys great content, and that content can be found anywhere you see the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI, whether that's YouTube, Twitter, or right below me, you'll see our ticker here for our written content on SI. So just encourage you guys to go check it all out, subscribe to the channels, follow on Twitter, and get to reading that stuff. Spin, one of the things you got going on is the Courtside with the Cavs podcast that you and Spencer do. What's the schedule? Do you guys have a schedule? I know Spence was
real weird on Courtside with Cavs on SI, just because Spence was covering the NFL Draft Combine for the other team up the road. Not going to say the name. We will get one, I'm pretty sure, at the beginning of the week, just because the Cavs schedule has been a little bit off. We didn't think, we did one last Friday, and then they only had like a game or 2 games in between. It'd be the same stuff that we'd be talking about. Yeah. So probably after Sunday, I'd assume maybe Monday, we would do our next podcast there. But yes, please subscribe, like, comment, rate, leave any sort of review for us. We would love it. Boost that podcast up. If you like this show, basically the same thing, except for without Megs over there. So that's really it. But Megs will hop on with some podcasts.
Hey, maybe I'll jump on every now and again. But
but we love the audience participation today, guys. Thank you so much. Almost 4K in here. That's easily a tops for us this season. So thank you so much for following along. It really means a lot to us.
And thanks for the thanks to the Cavs for getting a massive win tonight, 123-116 over the Boston Celtics, and what could be a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals here coming down the way in a couple months. Just a handful of games left as we get into March Madness. When you wake up tomorrow, if you're into college basketball, as I am, and as Spence is for sure, March Madness, the best month of the year for college basketball, and then it's all eyes on the NBA. So this
Go
is
Zips! Go Zips!
Go Zips! Oh, we got a zip. You got a zip shirt.
We got
on
a one.
there.
We got a 1 point lead on Kent right now.
There
Sorry,
we go.
guys.
There we go. Go Zips!
And that's why we're exiting. There's three minutes left.
Spin's got to go watch the finals. I got to go to sleep. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us tonight. Cavs winners 123-116. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.